Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 33. Today we will at last reach the point where we can start letting people into the new town. This is of course a whole process in itself, diagnosing last-second issues, trying to ensure people are actually working in the services they need to survive, etc. We will also place down the plans for that river bridge going over to the other side of the Republic, which will hopefully result in the construction of our steel industry in a couple episodes from now. But given the relatively slow rate of our population growth, it might take a while. It also doesn't help things that we had an epidemic go through the country recently, so we had to take care of the inoculation research before we could consider doing the population boosting study again. Apart from these, we'll just basically keep an eye on things, making sure people don't get too fed up around the new town. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. Let's start with that idea I talked about in the last episode. Since we are using a sorting facility to pick through the mixed garbage anyways, I think we can safely turn off a couple bin types in our collection points. Metal scrap, plastics, they can all go into the mixed rubbish. Especially aluminium. We are not even using that stuff right now, so there is absolutely no point in sacrificing 2 whole bins for the stuff. Now, later on I will discover that some of the metal scrap still makes it to the incinerator anyways, even after the sorting being done at the center of processing, so I still might add that back into the list of recycling bins in the towns. Taking these options off in Dolny was of course a bit of a hassle, since those bins are not completely empty, which makes it impossible to unassign them. We will need to return to these once or twice to fully reset them. Time to start moving some of the consumer goods to the new town. We will of course use the rail distribution office for this. Next, the meat. As usual, I like to use trains and trucks as a bit of a storage extension, so we will build a dedicated train, and tell it to fully unload at its destination, which will more than double the storage capacity of our town meat capacity at the distribution center. As always, thanks to the realistic settings we're playing with require a bit of a convoluted setup to deliver the wagons to the depot. And ever since we added a loop around the new town, trains can now turn around on the tracks. So even though I did make the changes in time that resulted in the locomotives flipping directions in the past, now it decided to go around the new town instead. By the time I realized that I should have used the turnaround button, it was too late. I need to get back into the habit of using that. And it seems I spent too much on the recent addition to our fleet of vehicles, so it's time to take out a small 2 million ruble loan. Okay, now we can send it to the depot. We just put it all together, tell it where to go and what to do, and that's pretty much it. One trip was enough to fully fill up the freezer. Might as well send it back for another round, so we have even more available when the citizens arrive. Also, let's not forget to set up the storage restrictions everywhere. The last thing we need is to either deliver too much of something, or even worse, deliver something that should not belong somewhere. This warehouse was originally meant to store the recycled plastics, but I think it can also store the chemicals needed for the hazardous waste processing. For this one, I decided to use the export office. The domestic one is starting to be a bit overloaded with jobs lately. We will definitely need to add another set of RDOs around the new town. Now, if you remember, the local rail construction office is a bit far away from the city center. And if we build a house that is close to it, we still need to ensure it can also reach the service buildings in the city center. So this narrow strip of land is where I decided to build it. But the ramp going up is interfering with things, so I spent a couple minutes trying to find a building we can use as a yellow ghost image for a bit more aggressive terrain leveling. Using a road was a dead end, so we need to find a small enough building to do this. Bin holders didn't give me a yellow ghost, so I kept looking. I usually use this method to create shelves for mines on steep cliffs, but a mine was just too big. But it seems the small cable car station was just the right size. Well, in some places anyway. Let's keep looking. Wait. It seems this apartment block can do exactly what we needed. All this time, and we could have just used the exact building we will place anyway. And this building is perfect for this job. It's wide enough to have footpath connections both close to the city center, as well as the RCO. Might as well build two, so we can better staff the construction office. Next, the footpaths that will go to the office itself. It should be as straightforward as possible, just to ensure people can actually use it to get to work there. Since we need a bridge here, I just tried to hook the two ends together directly, tried to remember where the two ends met the river, and built the final ones accordingly, and then just used a footpath bridge to finish it all up. Next, we have all the goods already in the distribution center, as well as the delivery trucks, so we can set up the assignments in the distribution office. Oh, right. It also needs fuel. That's only 3/4 of the goods we need in the shops, of course. Let's not forget about the meat. It will be the same as the train. One truck moving the stuff to the mall, and we tell it to wait for a full unload, so it can act as a bit of a storage extension, as well as to prevent it from running around needlessly, wasting too much fuel. We can also buy the last few garbage trucks for the second technical service garage. I considered building the next set of houses, but we have a whole lot to fill up anyways, so we will do that at a later date. And the time has come. The time to let the first couple dozens of people into the new place. Not too much though. They are just testing the waters before we let the rest in. I keep forgetting that we can now check the walking range of buildings along unfinished footpaths, and it seems the new houses under construction are in range, so that's a load off my mind. Good thing we have these garbage trucks on standby. We can just use them in the new processing center to move the burnable stuff into the incinerator. Okay, we have quite a few issues being reported. Most of them are shopping related. We simply have too few people living here, and they rarely make it to work in the mall, so we need to force them to do so. Giving one of the houses specific instructions where people are allowed to work will split the workers between those building according to the percentages we set. Now that we gave this order to one, we have some people making it to the shop, but not quite enough. So I just opened the floodgates on that house, and now we have much better numbers. Since I knew that people will be okay if we just let everyone in, I decided to take off the workplace restrictions, and open all the houses fully. We can test if all the unhoused population is enough or not. Well, it could be worse, I guess. Let's just leave them be for now, and check back later. This is where I wanted to get started on the population boosting tech, but I noticed that we had an epidemic, so I opted to do the vaccine first. Okay, the population is not quite enough it seems. We still need to use workplace restrictions. Since we are increasing the number of fuel deliveries, maybe it's time to buy the rest of the tanker trucks for the fuel distribution offices. We will also need an office to keep the rail construction going, and to make sure it's keeping up with the demand, let's build a big one, so we have enough trucks to do the job. I suppose this place will do. Oh dear, I almost forgot to set up the garbage deliveries. I bet most of you have been screaming at the screen until now. Good thing we only have a few people living here, so I can only hope things aren't too bad yet. The health could be worse, I suppose, but nothing serious. Here, I spent a couple minutes trying to take care of the unnecessary garbage sorting in Dolny. Basically, once those bins that I wanted to get rid of are empty, we can unassign them. Okay, that's where I will leave it for now. We should only have 1 or 2 stands left to deal with anyway, we can do those at another time. And we have the office to keep the rail construction going. We just need a couple vehicle types to do this job, and that's all there is to it. It seems the tanker trucks have mismatched colors. I could have sworn I had it set to the red cab. Oh well, I'm sure I will deal with them at some point. There. Now the RCO should get all the materials it needs from the local storages. The new citizens are comfortable enough in their new homes to start having children. That's great, but it also means we need to build a kindergarten, so they can still work, and not have one parent stay home to take care of the kids. Usually, we just build these locally, to serve a smaller area, but this time, I think we can build a big one, and let it take care of the entire town. And it can cover the whole city. That should take care of it. It seems we had 2 pretty big death spikes last year. Not the most ideal to say the least. But all things considered, I don't think it made all that much of a difference in the number of people available for settling into the new town. We are more than capable of outbreeding these momentary setbacks. Anyways, now that all we had to do is wait for the town to start filling up with people, we can turn our attention to the next phase, namely the crossing of the river. Today, we will only get around to doing the rail planning. We will do the roads at a later date. Obviously, I wanted it to be higher up than the usual bridges we built so far. So I went with having 3 of the thicker contour lines to start with. And I'm not quite sure this will be enough in the end either. Yeah, the rate of climb isn't too egregious, so we can go with this. Now, I highly doubted that the current construction offices were close enough to the other side of the river to start terraforming, so I decided to bring some of those machines a bit closer. That little peninsula seems like the perfect place for the other end of the bridge. If we are using curved bridges, might as well go for a proper curve. Those pillars are obviously a bit of an obstacle for ships, but if I remember correctly, they are only concerned about the headroom. They should just clip through the bridge supports. And this is where I will leave it for now. I didn't want to go any further until I can be sure cargo ships can actually go under those bridges, so I didn't even tell the old RCO to get on the job. That should take care of the childcare issues around the place. At least for the time being. Knowing the way kindergartens are in the game, I'm sure it will get overwhelmed sooner or later. Well, I was hoping we could just stockpile the garbage in the processing center until we are ready to have people make it to the train station by themselves, but even with so few people, the separator is already filling up at an alarming rate. We simply cannot delay, and we need to start shipping people to take care of it now. If we waited long enough for the citizens to reach the point where they exhausted all the in-town employment opportunities, the garbage would be too much. Oh, right. We need a bus stop for this place. Good thing it's compact enough, so we can build one pretty much anywhere, and people can still reach all the important stuff. We just need to add a single footpath for the steel recycling. Damn, it seems the space between the tracks and the gravel reclamation is simply too narrow. That spot would have been perfect for that station. I guess next to the warehouse will be fine too. We would have needed that extra footpath either way. Thankfully, we can just about make it under that conveyor belt, if we keep close enough to the gravel recycling. Well, that distance is short enough that we don't really need to bother with a fancy walkway. A simple dirt one will do just fine. And we have full coverage. Perfect. Oh right. We need to build it first. Just to be sure we are not running out of time, I kept an eye on the sorting facility. We are still relying on Satsumagrad for the concrete and asphalt. Not much we can do about that, the town is barely ready to bring people to take care of the garbage as it is. It seems the kindergarten doesn't get the staffing number it need to keep going. Time to use workplace assignments to make sure it's taking care of it, so more people can work on average. Anyways, we also use these assignments to make sure at least a handful of people makes it to the train station, so buses can pick them up there, and take them to deal with the garbage. Except, not enough of them reach the other end to staff everything important, so we also need to set up some temporary restrictions to make sure things are dealt with. Okay, that deals with the sorting. We can just let the different stuff pile up in the secondary recycling plants for now. We just need to deal with the bulk trash. Oh, right. The chemicals. We should set up the delivery for those too. Since there were 3 parking spots at the hazardous waste processing, I just let this truck wait for a full unload. The remaining 2 should be enough to serve the remaining drop-offs. And to complete this temporary setup, I also added the incinerator to the bus stop destinations, so we can burn the rubbish that couldn't be sorted. And this is where I discovered that we still had some metal scrap among the ash coming out. Not really sure what to make of it. Are the sorting facilities not 100% efficient in separating the trash? Or maybe, I didn't tell those 2 trucks to only deal with mixed garbage, and they picked some of the metal scrap up that didn't quite make it to the steel recycler. Sometimes things get left over in the production buildings. Either way, should be an easy fix for the next episode. Speaking of which, the next video should be all about planning our way toward the new steel mill on the other side of the river, and if we have time, maybe even spend some time doing the secondary sites too, where we will make the coal and iron needed to keep the central factory going. I am also convinced that we should use cable cars to transport those materials into the mill. Having to build conveyor towers along the way would get real expensive over such long distances, and it will also allow us to cut down on the number of power substations we need to use. Cable cars only need power at their end stations, but conveyors need all the towers to have electricity, so it would make sense to use cable cars in this instance. In previous series, we built these places very close together, so we could power the towers quite easily, but now, the distances are much greater, so we need to plan accordingly. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.